Wolfless and rejected, she was banished to the cursed forest. Then the Alpha heard her cry. The sun had barely touched the horizon when the village gathered for the Moon Festival, its silver light casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. Leora walked quietly among the villagers, her heart heavy with a weight that no one could see. Every year, this festival was meant to celebrate the bond between Omegas and their wolves, the sacred connection that bound their kind together. But this year, Leora felt only emptiness. She had never heard the call of a wolf within her, never felt a spirit companion respond to her presence. She was the wolfless one, the girl whispered about in hushed tones and cast aside in secret. The festival square was alive with music, laughter, and the scent of blooming night flowers. Lanterns floated in the air, tethered to thin ropes, glowing like captured stars. Children ran with small fireflies in jars, their tiny hands trembling with excitement. Leora's chest tightened. She longed to join them, to feel a part of something, but every smile she forced felt hollow. She knew that the council and her neighbors did not see her as an Omega at all. She was an outsider, a shadow in the warmth of others. She stood at the edge of the crowd, watching as the ritual began. The High Council of the Omegas, robed in deep midnight blue, stepped forward. Each Omega called their wolf, their voice a gentle, melodic command that seemed to echo in the air itself. Some wolves appeared instantly, their fur shimmering like silver in the moonlight, eyes glowing with an inner fire. Leora's stomach nodded as she whispered, "Come to me." Her voice was small, almost lost among the chanting and laughter. Nothing happened. Her hands trembled as she tried again, louder this time, more desperate. "I am here, hear me." She felt the heat of humiliation creeping into her cheeks. The other Omegas, wolves, had already appeared, circling their masters, nuzzling them, growling softly in protective acknowledgement. The council members' eyes flicked to her with disapproval, their lips pressing into thin lines. Leora felt their judgment, heavy and suffocating, pressing down like a stone on her chest. A murmur ran through the crowd. "She has no wolf. How is this possible?" someone whispered. Another voice muttered, "The curse of the wolfless is upon her." Leora's heart sank. She had heard these words before, in whispers, in cruel jokes, and now they filled the air like poison. She could feel every eye on her, waiting, expecting her to fail, and she did. The High Council raised their hands, their voices deep and cold. "Leora of the Northern Vale," the eldest spoke, his voice carrying through the still night, "you have failed to call your wolf. You are wolfless. You have brought shame to yourself and the Omega line. By decree of the council, you are banished to the cursed forest." A gasp ran through the crowd. Leora felt as if the world had tilted and fallen around her. Banished. Alone. The cursed forest was not a place for life, but for death, despair, and forgotten magic. Mothers told their children that wandering too close to its edge would invite shadows that whispered lies and nightmares that never ended. And now she was being sent there, alone, with no companion to protect her. Her knees went weak. She tried to speak, to plead, but the words would not come. Her hands shook. She wanted to scream, to demand mercy, to tell them they were wrong. But the council's decision was final. She was nothing to them now, an outcast, unclaimed, forgotten. With trembling steps, she moved forward, leaving the square behind. Lanterns floated above her like cold, distant stars. Children and villagers whispered behind her back. She didn't look back. The words of the council echoed in her mind, each repetition a hammer on her chest. Wolfless, rejected, banished. The path to the forest was narrow and winding, flanked by tall oaks and twisted vines that seemed to shiver in the moonlight. Leora felt every leaf, every shadow watching her. The air grew cooler as she moved deeper into the wild, and with each step, the sounds of her village faded until there was only the wind and the faint rustle of unseen creatures. For the first time in her life, Leora felt truly alone. She pressed her arms around herself, trying to ward off the chill that was not only of the night but of the world itself, the cold of rejection, the emptiness of solitude. Tears threatened to fall, but she blinked them back. She could not allow herself to cry here, not yet. She had to survive. She had to endure. The forest around her was alive in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying. Shadows twisted along the trunks of trees, and the moonlight seemed to bend unnaturally around her. Whispers drifted through the air, faint and melodic like the echoes of voices long gone. Leora shivered, unsure if the voices were real or if they were the trickery of her frightened mind. As she walked, she noticed a clearing ahead. The moon spilled across it in a silver pool, illuminating an ancient, gnarled tree at its center. Its bark was blackened and cracked, yet faint traces of golden light shimmered between the grooves, as if the tree were alive with memories. Something about it drew her closer, a force she could not name. She approached cautiously, her bare feet brushing the cold grass. The whispers grew louder, circling her like a soft wind that carried secrets. She placed her hand on the tree's rough bark, feeling a pulse beneath her fingers, a heartbeat that was not her own. It was then she heard it, a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the clearing. Leora froze. The hair on her arm stood on end. The growl deepened, resonating in her chest. She scanned the shadows, but the forest seemed empty. And yet the sound persisted, moving closer, circling her, yet unseen. A figure emerged from the mist, tall, broad-shouldered, moving like a shadow itself. Eyes as bright and piercing as the moon locked onto hers, glowing faintly in the dim light. Leora could feel the power radiating from him, a force that was both terrifying and magnetic. "Who dares cry in my forest?" His voice was low, commanding, yet strangely melodic like a song carried on the wind. Every word sent shivers down her spine. Leora stammered, her voice barely audible. She wanted to run, to hide, but her legs refused to move. The man, or whatever he was, stepped closer. His presence seemed to bend the shadows around him, and the forest itself felt alive, leaning in to watch. "You are lost," he said, almost as a statement, not a question. "And yet I hear your heart. It beats with something unusual. Something strong." Leora swallowed hard, unsure what to say. She had never spoken to anyone like this, never felt such scrutiny, and yet there was a pull she could not resist. She felt seen, not for her failure, but for something deeper, hidden, raw. I was banished," she whispered finally. "The council, they say I am wolfless." The figure tilted his head as if considering her words carefully. "Wolfless," he repeated softly. "Perhaps, or perhaps the world has been blind to your power. Perhaps it is not a curse, but a test." Leora's heart thumped painfully in her chest. A test? Could it be true? Could she be more than the village had told her? Before she could ask, the figure stepped back, disappearing into the mist as silently as he had appeared. The clearing was quiet again, but the echo of his presence lingered. Leora felt the first spark of something she had never felt before. Hope. Not complete hope, not yet, but a faint light in the darkness. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heartbeat, feeling alive even in the cursed forest. She sat beneath the ancient tree, hugging her knees, listening to the forest's whispers. It seemed to breathe around her, the shadows softening as if they were aware she was not like the others. Somewhere deep inside, a new strength began to stir, one she had never known. And then, just before sleep claimed her, a sound made her heart jump, a low, melodic growl, faint but deliberate. Leora opened her eyes. Across the clearing, in the midst of the forest, two glowing eyes watched her. She could not see his face, but she felt his gaze as if it touched her soul. "Rest, little Omega," a voice whispered through the wind, gentle now, almost tender. "I will hear your cry again. I will find you, and we will see what you are truly meant to be." Leora shivered, unsure whether to be frightened or comforted. She curled beneath the tree, letting the moonlight wash over her, and for the first time in her life she felt a spark of courage. Perhaps this cursed forest would not be the end. Perhaps it was only the beginning. And somewhere hidden in the shadows, The alpha of the forest watched, waiting, patient, and curious. The next morning, the forest seemed quieter, almost holding its breath. Sunlight filtered through the tall, twisted trees, but the shadows remained thick and moving, as if alive. Leora woke beneath the ancient gnarled tree, her body stiff but her mind alert. Her heart still beat with the echo of the Alpha's voice from the night before. "I will find you, and we will see what you are truly meant to be." For a long moment she stared at the silver light of the morning, unsure if it had been a dream or real. But the footprints in the soft soil around the clearing told her otherwise. Someone, or something, had been here. Her pulse quickened. The forest was no longer just a place of fear. It was a place of possibility. She rose carefully, brushing dew from her simple tunic, and took cautious steps into the dense woods. Each movement made her more aware of the sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the distant call of unseen birds, the whisper of wind through the branches. Though beautiful, every sound carried a warning. The cursed forest was not forgiving to those who wandered alone. Leora's mind raced. She had to survive. If she could just find shelter, food, and a safe place to rest, she might endure this place long enough to understand the strange power that had stirred in her the night before. Hours passed. She moved carefully, her bare feet brushing the soft forest floor, until she came to a small stream. Its water shimmered like liquid silver in the morning sun. Kneeling, she drank slowly, savoring the coolness, and noticed faint markings along the banks. Footprints large, heavy, like nothing she had ever seen. She froze. The Alpha had been near. A rustle in the bushes made her flinch. Her heart pounded as she spun around, expecting to see a predator. Instead, she found herself staring into a pair of glowing eyes, low and watchful. A soft growl vibrated through the air. "You should not wander so carelessly," a deep, smooth voice said. Leora's breath caught. It was him, the Alpha, Kale. He stepped from the shadows, his presence commanding and undeniable. The forest seemed to lean back, giving him space as if it knew him. I am trying to survive," Leora said, her voice trembling but firm. "I do not want trouble." Kale's eyes softened slightly, though they still glowed with an intensity that made her shiver. "Survival alone is difficult here. The forest is alive. It tests those who enter. Many do not last. You are different, little Omega. You have something rare. And yet you are vulnerable." "I am wolfless," Leora whispered. Her words felt heavier here in the forest that seemed to sense her shame. "That is why the council sent me here." Kale's gaze sharpened. "Wolfless," he repeated, almost tasting the word. Then he crouched slightly, studying her as one would study a creature that is both fragile and dangerous. Perhaps the council is blind. Perhaps what they see as weakness is actually strength hidden from them. Leora felt a flicker of hope, though fear remained. "Why do you care?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I am not yours, I am nothing to you." Kale's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "You are nothing to them, that is true, but you are something to this forest and perhaps something to me. You cannot survive alone here. I could leave you to the shadows, or I could show you a way to endure." Leora hesitated. His presence was both terrifying and magnetic. Her instincts screamed to flee, yet part of her longed to stay, to learn, to understand. "And if I refuse?" she asked. "Refusal is a choice," Kale said simply, standing tall again. "But the forest does not care for your decisions. It does not forgive weakness. The choice may be yours, but the consequences are not." For hours, Kale moved alongside her, a silent guardian through the twisted paths of the cursed forest. He did not touch her, did not claim her, but his presence was always close, watching, judging, testing. Leora could feel it in every step, the sense that she was being measured, weighed against standards she could not yet understand. By nightfall, they reached a small cavern hidden beneath the roots of an enormous tree. The opening was narrow, but inside it opened to a spacious, dry chamber. The walls glimmered faintly, covered in crystalline formations that reflected the moonlight, casting dancing shadows across the space. "You will rest here," Kale said, his voice calm but firm. "The forest will try to harm you if you sleep outside. The cavern is protected, but you must remain vigilant. Even here, the shadows listen." Leora nodded, grateful and terrified at the same time. "Thank you," she whispered, lowering herself to the stone floor. Kale crouched near the cavern's entrance, his eyes scanning the forest beyond. "Do not think this will make you safe from the forest forever," he warned. "It will test you, but I will return. I will see if you are strong enough to claim your power." Leora curled up on the smooth stone, the crystalline light bathing her in silver glow. Her thoughts raced. She thought of the council, of the villagers who had rejected her, of the wolf she had never heard calling her name. And now of Kale, the alpha who had appeared as if from the shadows themselves, watching her, testing her. Sleep came reluctantly, and in dreams the forest seemed alive with whispers and movement. Shadowy figures circled her, their voices soft but insistent. "You are weak, you are alone, you cannot survive." Yet beneath those whispers a stronger voice answered, faint but certain. "You are more than they say. You are not alone." Morning brought light and clarity. Leora rose, determined to move forward. She began to explore the forest, testing her limits, learning which paths were safe, which were traps. The forest was dangerous, yes, but it was also alive with beauty. Strange flowers glowed in the shade, streams sang songs that soothed her spirit, and ancient trees seemed to murmur encouragement when she passed. Days passed, and Kale continued to appear at unexpected moments. Sometimes he would arrive just in time to protect her from creatures of shadow and mist. Other times, he would appear on the cliffs above the forest, watching silently as she tested herself against the dangers around her. Through these encounters, Leora began to understand something about herself. She was not weak. She was not powerless. The forest responded to her fear and courage alike, bending in subtle ways to her presence. Her wolflessness did not mark her as broken. It marked her as different, perhaps even special. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in a warm orange glow, Leora climbed a hill to watch the moon rise. She felt the wind in her hair and the weight of the forest pressing around her, but no longer as a threat. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I will survive. I will endure." A shadow fell across her path, and she opened her eyes to see Kale standing there, closer than ever. His eyes glowed faintly in the twilight, and he did not speak immediately. Instead, he studied her, silently measuring the changes in her posture, her confidence, the light in her eyes that had not been there before. "You are learning," he said finally. "Faster than I expected. The forest listens to you now. Perhaps it always has, waiting for the one who could claim it." Leora felt her heart race. "Claim it? What do you mean?" Kale took a slow step closer. "This forest is more than just trees and shadows. It is alive with ancient power. Those who enter it unprepared are consumed. But you have something that none before have had, the strength to survive and perhaps the power to command." The words both terrified and thrilled her. "And you, why are you helping me?" she asked softly. His gaze softened ever so slightly, though it remained intense. "Because I see what they cannot. You are not broken. You are waiting for the moment to awaken. And I am curious to see if you can truly rise." Before she could respond, a sudden rustling erupted from the nearby trees. Shadows twisted violently, and the forest seemed to roar in anger. Leora instinctively stepped back, but Kale moved forward, placing himself between her and the threat. From the shadows, a massive creature emerged, a wolf unlike any she had ever seen, its fur dark as midnight, eyes glowing red with fury. It lunged at them with supernatural speed. Leora froze, her body rigid with fear. Kale's growl shook the very ground. In one swift motion, he leapt forward, his presence commanding the shadow around him. The creature recoiled, snarling, but Kale did not strike. Instead, he raised a hand, and the shadows of the forest swirled around the wolf, holding it at bay without harming it. "Do not fear," Kale said calmly, his eyes never leaving Leora. "The forest is testing you again. It is not your enemy, only a teacher." Leora felt a surge of courage. She stepped forward slightly, raising her hands instinctively. She did not know what she was doing, but a strange warmth flowed from within her, and the shadows seemed to respond. The wolf stilled, its growl fading as it sensed her presence. Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. "See, the power is within you. You must trust it, trust yourself." The red-eyed wolf vanished into the shadows as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving only the whisper of wind. Leora's chest heaved, adrenaline coursing through her. For the first time she felt not fear but potential, possibility. Kale stepped closer again. "You are changing, little Omega. Soon you will not only survive this forest, you will command it, but that is only the beginning." Leora swallowed hard, her eyes meeting his. I want to understand. I want to survive. I want to be more than what they said I am." Kale's eyes softened just a fraction, enough to make her heart beat faster. "Good," he said. "Then we begin. You will not walk alone, but know this, the forest will push you to the edge. You will face your fears. You will be tested. And when you rise, only then will you be ready to face what comes next." The moon rose fully above them, bathing the forest in silver light. Shadows stretched and moved, alive yet controlled, and Leora felt the strange thrill of connection. She was no longer simply a banished Omega. She was something new, something waiting to awaken. And from somewhere deep in the forest, beyond the mists and the shadows, Kale's eyes watched her, glowing softly in the moonlight. His presence was a promise and a challenge, a pull she could neither resist nor fully understand. For the first time in her life, Leora did not feel weak. She felt alive. The forest whispered around her, and in its language of shadows and light, she heard a truth she had never known. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. And your story has only just begun. The cursed forest had grown darker with each passing day. Even as the moonlight filtered through the thick canopy, shadows moved in strange and unpredictable ways. Leora walked carefully along a narrow path, her senses sharpened. She had learned to listen to the wind, to feel the ground beneath her feet, and to watch for the forest's subtle warnings. Every step was a lesson, every rustle a possible danger. Kale had not appeared that morning, and Leora felt the absence like a weight pressing against her chest. She missed his presence, though it often frightened her. It was not comfort she sought from him, she realized, but guidance. He was a mystery she could not yet understand, a shadow and a light at the same time. She paused by a stream, its water dark and still, reflecting the twisted branches above. Her hands shook slightly as she dipped them into the cold water, splashing her face. The memory of the red-eyed wolf from the night before made her stomach twist. She had felt something awaken in her during that encounter, a strange warmth that responded to the danger rather than fear. Perhaps Kale was right. Perhaps the forest did not harm her because it sensed something different within her. A soft wind carried whispers through the trees. They were not words she could understand, yet they felt like messages, pressing at the edge of her mind. Leora closed her eyes, trying to focus. The forest was alive, yes, but alive in a way that mirrored her own uncertainty. Shadows and light, fear and courage, danger and possibility, all intertwined. Suddenly, a voice broke the stillness. "You are moving too quickly into the heart of the forest." Leora's eyes snapped open. Kale stood at the edge of the path, tall and silent, his presence commanding as ever. He did not step closer, but the forest seemed to bend slightly around him, shadows retreating just enough to make space. "I need to understand it," Leora said, her voice trembling but firm. "I need to know what this place is and why I am different." Kale's eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Different, yes. That is both your strength and your danger. The forest will reveal much to you, but it will also demand more than you are ready to give." Leora took a deep breath. "Then I will give what I must. I cannot remain weak. He studied her silently for a long moment, then finally spoke. Very well. But understand this, the forest does not forgive hesitation. You must face it fully or it will consume you. Are you prepared for that? I am, she said, though doubt still lingered. Kale nodded slightly and stepped back into the shadows, watching as she moved deeper into the forest. The air grew cooler, heavier, and the trees denser. Every sound seemed louder now, the crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves, the whisper of unseen creatures. Leora's pulse quickened. This part of the forest was older, wilder, and more alive than any place she had seen before. She paused near a massive tree whose roots twisted into the earth like serpents. A faint glow emanated from its bark, casting shifting patterns across the forest floor. Leora felt the same pull she had felt the first night, a strange connection she could not explain. She reached out, placing her hand on the rough surface. Immediately, the ground trembled. Shadows rose from the earth, forming shapes like wolves but darker, more abstract, moving with a fluid grace that was almost hypnotic. Leora stumbled back, fear rising in her chest. "You are afraid," a voice whispered, not Kale's, but carried on the wind. "You fear your own power, yet it calls to you." Leora closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. She had felt the warmth before, the pull of something inside her, but it had never been tested like this. Taking a deep breath, she reached out with her mind, her heart, and whatever strength she had found in the forest so far. Slowly, the shadows responded, circling her without aggression, moving in rhythm with her breathing. The voice on the wind spoke again. "Yes, you are learning, but you are not yet ready." Leora opened her eyes and saw Kale emerging silently from the trees. His gaze was intense, focused, and yet there was something else, pride perhaps, or curiosity. "You have potential," he said softly. "But potential alone will not save you. You must understand your fear, control it, and then rise above it. Only then will the forest bend to your will instead of consuming you." "I will," she said, her voice stronger now. I do not want to be weak. I want to survive. I want to be more than they say I am." Kale's eyes glimmered faintly in the dim light. "Good. That is the first step. The second is understanding what lies beneath your fear. You must face it fully without turning away." Before Leora could respond, the shadows around her swirled violently. The wolf shapes reformed, larger now, more threatening. Their glowing eyes fixed on her, and a low growl reverberated through the forest. Her stomach twisted in fear, but she did not run. Instead, she took a deep breath, focusing on the strange warmth inside her. The shadows hesitated, then recoiled slightly as if sensing her resolve. Leora felt a surge of power, stronger than before, coursing through her. She extended her hands and the shadows responded, moving away from her in fluid arcs, obeying her unspoken command. Kale's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "Yes, you are learning. The forest recognizes strength even when it is fledgling, but you are not finished." "The greatest test lies ahead." Leora's pulse raced. "What test?" she asked. Kale's expression remained unreadable. "The forest will call to you again, more fiercely, and it will demand that you confront your deepest fear. Only then will you truly awaken the power within you. But beware, some truths are more difficult to face than any shadow or wolf." Night fell quickly, and the forest grew colder. Leora prepared a small fire within a hollowed tree trunk, watching the flames flicker. The shadows outside danced in the firelight, and for the first time she felt a strange connection with them. They were no longer enemies. They were reflections of herself, of her fear and her courage intertwined. A soft movement at the edge of the clearing made her heart skip a beat. Kale stepped into the circle of light, silent and imposing. "The forest has tested you today, and you have survived. That is the first lesson. The next will be far more difficult. Tomorrow you will face the heart of the forest itself." "The heart," Leora echoed, fear rising again. "What is there?" "Truth," Kale said simply. Your truth, the forest's truth, and the choice you must make. You will not be able to avoid it. And when you reach it, you must decide whether to rise or be consumed. Leora nodded, feeling both dread and determination. She had come this far, survived each challenge, and learned more about herself than she ever had in her village. She would not turn back now. The next morning, Kale guided her to a clearing deeper in the forest. The trees here were older, their bark thick and twisted, and the air was heavy with magic. A soft mist hung low, and the light seemed dimmer, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "This is where it begins," Kale said. "You must enter the heart of the forest alone. I will remain at the edge, watching. The forest will speak to you. You will face your fear. Trust yourself, little Omega, and do not falter." Leora took a deep breath, stepping forward. Each step made her heart pound, but she focused on the warmth inside her, the strange energy that had responded to danger before. The forest seemed to react, shadows parting slightly, almost guiding her path. Suddenly, a figure appeared ahead. At first she thought it was Kale, but it was her own reflection, shaped in shadow. It moved with exaggerated gestures, mimicking her every step, every falter, every fear. Leora realized it was the forest showing her the darkness within herself, the part of her that had always believed she was unworthy, rejected, and weak. "You are nothing," the shadow whispered, voice like a chorus of lost souls. "You have no wolf. You are alone. You will fail." Leora's chest tightened. For a moment she felt panic rising, but she forced herself to breathe deeply. "I am not nothing," she whispered. "I am alive. I am more than you say. I will survive." The shadow hesitated, as if testing her resolve. Leora stepped closer, meeting the dark reflection with steady eyes. Slowly, the shadow began to shrink, its edges dissolving into mist. The warmth inside her flared, stronger than ever, and the forest seemed to exhale, the mist clearing. Kale's voice broke through the silence. "You are stronger than I imagined. This is only the beginning, little Omega. The forest has recognized your courage and your will, but there are still trials ahead. Darkness will always return. Power is never given, it must be claimed and maintained." Leora felt her chest swell with a mixture of exhaustion and pride. For the first time, she did not feel like a rejected girl. She felt like someone who had faced the shadows of her past and emerged stronger. Kale stepped forward then, closing the distance. "You are learning to walk between fear and power, Leora. That is the hardest path of all. And soon, you will be ready for what the forest has truly hidden, the secrets that could change everything." Leora met his gaze, and for the first time she felt a flicker of understanding. Kale was not just a guide, nor simply a guardian. He was a challenge, a mirror of the strength she was finding within herself. The forest stretched around them, alive with possibilities, with dangers, with magic older than the kingdom itself. And Leora, once banished and afraid, now stood tall, ready to face what was coming next. The moon rose high above, silver and brilliant, and the shadows whispered once more. This is only the beginning. The forest was silent in the early hours of the morning, the mist curling around the gnarled roots and tall trees like ghostly fingers. Leora stood at the edge of a clearing she had never seen before. The air was thick with magic, and even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. She knew this was the heart of the forest, the place Kale had warned her about. Here she would face the ultimate test, one that would determine whether she would be consumed by fear or rise to claim her hidden strength. Her bare feet pressed into the soft, moss-covered ground. The warmth she had felt in the last days, the strange power that had responded to danger, throbbed within her, stronger now, as if the forest itself had been preparing her for this moment. Her pulse quickened, not with fear alone, but with anticipation. She had come far. She had endured, and now she would see if she was ready. Kale appeared silently from the shadows, his presence as commanding and enigmatic as ever. "The forest will challenge you like never before," he said, his voice low and steady. You will see what lies hidden, not only in the trees and the shadows, but within yourself. Do you understand what that means? I think so, Leora whispered, though doubt lingered. I must face myself, and whatever the forest wants to reveal. Kale's gaze softened slightly, though the intensity never left his eyes. Yes, you are ready to see the truth, but remember, courage alone is not enough. You must trust the power inside you, even if it frightens you. With that, he stepped back into the trees, leaving her alone. Leora drew a deep breath and stepped forward into the clearing. Immediately, the shadows twisted and writhed around her, forming shapes she recognized. Wolves, specters, even herself, but distorted, threatening, and dark. The forest seemed to lean closer, pressing in, testing her resolve. You are weak, the shadows whispered, voices overlapping in a haunting chorus. You are nothing. You are rejected. You have no wolf. You will fail. Leora's chest tightened, but she forced herself to stand taller. I am not nothing, she said, her voice stronger than she expected. I am not weak. I am alive, and I will not be broken. I will survive. The shadows recoiled slightly at her words, and the air shifted. She felt warmth surge within her, a growing energy that she could control, that responded to her courage rather than her fear. Slowly, carefully, she extended her hands, and the shadows began to move with her, no longer hostile but bending to her will. From the corner of her eye she saw movement. Kale had returned, standing at the edge of the clearing, silent and watchful. His eyes glowed softly, and for the first time Leora felt not fear but a quiet understanding. He was not there to dominate her, nor to test her cruelly. He was there to witness her rise. The forest shifted again, more violently this time. A gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying whispers and shadows that reached for her like tendrils. Leora's legs trembled, but she focused on the warmth inside her. She let it flow, letting the strange energy she had felt since her banishment rise and shape the shadows around her. The shadows bowed to her will, forming a protective circle, swirling like silver mist under her command. You are learning, Kale said, stepping closer. But the greatest test is not control. It is understanding. You must face the part of yourself that you fear the most, the part that has been told it is worthless. Only by accepting that and transforming it will you awaken fully. Leora's mind flashed with memories. The council's words, the villagers' whispers, her family's disappointment. All the times she had been rejected, the times she had felt nothing but shame and emptiness. And beneath all that, a seed of anger had grown, quiet but persistent, urging her to prove them wrong. She closed her eyes and whispered, I accept it. I accept who I am, all of me. The rejected, the wolfless, the scared, I accept it, and I will rise above it. The forest reacted instantly. The shadows parted and twisted into new shapes, not threatening but majestic and alive. Wolves made of silver mist circled her, bowing as she stepped forward. The ground trembled gently beneath her feet, and the ancient trees seemed to bend toward her, acknowledging her strength. Kale's eyes shone brighter, and a rare expression softened his face. You have done well, Leora. Not many could face themselves and emerge stronger. You are ready to claim what has been hidden within you. A sudden pulse ran through the clearing, a vibration that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the forest. Leora felt it deep within her chest. It was not fear this time, but power, raw, untamed, and hers to control. She stepped forward, and the forest seemed to guide her toward a small, glowing pool at the center of the clearing. The pool shimmered like liquid moonlight, and as she approached, she saw her reflection. Not the scared, rejected girl she had been, but a stronger, fiercer version of herself. Her eyes glowed faintly, echoing the energy she felt within. She reached out, and the surface of the water rippled, responding to her touch. You are ready, Kale said, stepping beside her. But understand this. The forest has given you strength, not to rule it, but to protect it, to honor it. Your power is a gift and a responsibility. Leora nodded, understanding for the first time the magnitude of what she had discovered. She was not just surviving. She was becoming something more, a bridge between the forest, the magic, and the world beyond. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying the scent of distant danger. Shadows gathered on the edges of the clearing, darker and more threatening than before. Leora tensed, but Kale stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone. We face this together." Together, they moved toward the shadows. Leora extended her hands, and the power within her responded, forming protective shapes around them. The shadows advanced, but each step they took was met with resistance, bending to Leora's will and Kale's strength. The creatures of the forest, wolves, spirits, and shadows alike, stopped at the edge of the clearing. They bowed, acknowledging the bond between the Alpha and the Omega, the respect that had been forged through courage, trust, and understanding. Leora felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had faced her deepest fear and emerged stronger. She was no longer the rejected girl, the wolfless Omega cast aside. She was whole, powerful, and ready for whatever came next. Kale looked at her, eyes softer than ever. "You have done more than survive, Leora. You have claimed your power, your place, and perhaps even my respect." Leora smiled, a genuine, bright smile that reached her eyes. "I could not have done it alone," she said. "You did not," Kale replied. "But you found the courage within yourself to rise. That is what matters. The forest will always be a part of you now, as will I, but your strength, that is yours entirely." The moon rose high above them, casting silver light across the clearing. Shadows moved gently around them, no longer threatening but protective, alive with the acknowledgement of the power she had awakened. The forest itself seemed to breathe with them, calm and alive, a living testament to Leora's transformation. For a long moment they stood in silence, watching the forest respond to her presence. Leora felt a deep connection, not only to the forest but to Kale and to herself. She had endured rejection, faced fear, and risen above it. She had become more than anyone had believed possible. Kale finally spoke, his voice quiet and almost tender. "The council will not understand what you have become. The villagers will whisper, but their words no longer matter. You are beyond their judgment. You are extraordinary." Leora looked up at him, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with fear. "And you?" she asked softly. "What are you beyond?" Kale's eyes met hers, intense and unyielding, yet filled with something softer, curiosity, admiration, and a quiet respect. I am bound by duty, but perhaps also by something I have not felt in a long time. You have awakened not only your strength, Leora, but something in me I thought lost, something I did not know could return." The forest seemed to hum around them, acknowledging the bond between them. They were not just Alpha and Omega in title. They were equals in courage, in power, and in understanding, a bond forged through challenge, fear, and triumph. Leora stepped closer, feeling the energy that had once terrified her now resonate with her own heartbeat. "I am not the same girl who was banished," she said. "I am stronger, braver, and ready for what comes next." Kale inclined his head, a rare softness in his expression. "And I will stand beside you, not to command, but to support, to witness, and perhaps to learn from you as well." The moonlight bathed them both in silver glow. The forest whispered around them, alive and at peace. Leora took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs. She had survived the cursed forest, faced her deepest fears, and discovered the power that had always been within her. She was no longer rejected, no longer feared, no longer alone. The night stretched on, calm and beautiful, and the forest seemed to hum with the quiet promise of a new beginning. Leora and Kale stood together, Alpha and Omega, united not by fear or dominance, but by courage, trust, and a shared understanding. Somewhere deep within the shadows, the forest's ancient magic rested, acknowledging their bond, ready for the challenges that lay ahead. But for now, there was only the moon, the trees, and the quiet, enduring strength of two souls who had found each other in the heart of a cursed world. "This is not the end," the forest seemed to whisper. It is only the beginning of a story that will echo through the ages. And for the first time in her life, Leora believed it.